My name is Paul Ramos. I'm a MA, medical assistant thesis, and I've been in a company for 5 years. I choose to work in AHF to carry the heart and soul for my dad, my late dad. He was diagnosed with HIV and AIDS. Every time I see a patient, I know that he's looking over me and he knows that I did it for him.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Zoraida Jiménez y soy la manager de práctica de la oficina de Falls Church in Virginia. So what has surprised me more about the company culture is my immediate manager taking her time to really train me one-on-one, making sure that I understand and I do the job that I need to do to succeed in my role.
Hi, my name is Simply Sandy. I'm a non-medical case manager here at the K Street location. I chose to work at AHF because it is a phenomenal company. The company allowed me to spread my wings, if you will. They allowed me to continue doing what I love to do, and that's serving the public. I feel as though we are a family, and I could not do what I do by myself.
My name is Dominita Morrow. I'm the office administrator for the Temple Hills AHF location. I choose to work for AHF because I like to give back to my community. My favorite thing about working with AHF is how much the organization gives to the community, how they help our patients, help them grow, the tools that they give them that our patients can't find at any other clinic.
The thing that surprised me about working for AHF, which I enjoyed, the teamwork, the employees, it's a really great work environment. You look forward to actually getting up and coming to work. AHF is one of those companies that I will say that really looks out and really cares about their employees.
My name is Sade. I'm a technician here in Baltimore, and I work with AHF because I really enjoy taking care of my patients, and I like their mission statement of being patient first, of putting patient care over profit, and getting our co-pays as close to zero as possible. I love that part.
The average baseball stadium holds about 50,000 people, enough to fill a dance floor the size of a New York City block. It was also the number of people in the US who became HIV positive every year since 2003. Then, something happened. One by one, we said, enough is enough. Instead of waiting for a cure, we took action. We got tested and retested. We talked to each other, and we talked to healthcare providers about HIV prevention options. People living with HIV started treatment right away and stuck to it, which can prevent the spread of HIV through sex. New infections went down, but we still have work to do. So let's all do our part and keep fighting, because together we can all help stop the virus. Find out what you can do at helpstopthevirus.com.
Good evening and welcome to OutWrite DC's reading, celebrating the contributors to this year's Festival Journal. I'm Rasha Abdulhadi, co-editor of this year's issue along with Dori Toledo. I am a genderqueer Palestinian wearing glasses, a pink astronaut t-shirt, and a black and rainbow kufiya, and I am so glad you're joining us for tonight's reading. This year's theme is Pandemic as Portal, after Arundhati Roy's still relevant 2020 essay calling for transformative responses to the ecological, political, social, and pandemic crises we still face. This year's Festival Journal features prose and poetry from 15 writers from all over the world, and 6 of those writers are joining us this evening to read from their work. Please join us in cheering for the work these writers and so many artists are doing to help us understand and stay alive to the incredibly intense times we are living through. Tonight's reading is a preview. Please follow OutWrite on social media for the official release of the full journal very soon. At a time when so many government and corporate forces are trying to deny the multiple ongoing pandemics and reduce funding for community care, I am so grateful to the writers tonight for refusing to turn away from the events, feelings, and lessons of this time. Working on this journal feels like sacred work. And the queer pamphlets, like the queer pamphlets and zines from our history, I hope this journal will be one of the many documents that fights against the erasures of our fights to keep each other alive. I am broadcasting tonight from the lands of the Nacotchtank or Anacostan and Piscataway peoples, also known as Chocolate City, the current capital of this imperial nation. OutWrite is Washington, D.C.'s annual LGBTQ+++ literary festival. Events are free and open to the public, so I hope you enjoy all of them. Please join me in honoring the loving work that goes into making this festival free and virtual for the third year in a row, with accessibility supports and payments for participating artists. Big cheers are due to outgoing co-chairs Malik Thompson and Marlena Chertok, incoming chair Emily Holland, and the designer of this year's journal, Pandemic as Portal, Marissa Dreyer. Biggest thanks go to my colleague in editing and hosting this event, Dory Lynn Toledo, for guiding this process with such care. I want to toss to Dory for an intro.
Oh, Rasha, thank you. That was a wonderful intro and very, very thorough. Well, yes, my name is Dorlyn Toledo. Feel free to call me Dory. I am a queer Asian Latina editor from California. I'm wearing a textured brown long sleeve colored blouse and gold-bird earrings. I have an overgrown bob that goes at the end. As an editor of this year's journal, I was lucky to sit down with each submission. I'm thrilled that we get to hear from some of the journal authors here today and read the rest of the finished journal. Thank you.
Thank you, Dory. Okay, is everyone ready for the readings? I'm ready. I will be introducing each reader by name, and they'll give an opportunity to introduce themselves. We'll take a moment of breath to offer appreciation after each reading. Please, whether you're here on the Zoom or watching this online live stream, use your emoji reactions and chat responses to let them know how you feel about these powerful works. Okay, first reader, get ready. I'd like to introduce Chris Dang.
Hi, thanks so much for that. Hi, everyone. I'm Chris. I'm a queer Chinese American writer and multimedia artist born and based in New York. I like to explore grief, collective memory, and community resilience in my work. Today, I'll be sharing a piece that I wrote titled Grieving in Translation. At the only available funeral home in the city, the lady on staff takes 3 days to respond. I send 4 follow-up emails. It's May of 2020. The hospital loses my grandma's belongings. I put on my best English. I spend 2 weeks arguing with the patient care team. I ask for the names of everyone I speak to. I open up WeChat to tell my grandma's siblings that she is dead. They send crying emojis to our group chat. I need money for the cremation, I say. This is a link to the GoFundMe. They don't reply. 3 weeks earlier, a 917 number calls. I set myself to busy on Microsoft Teams. It's a doctor from Montefiore, where an ambulance took my grandma a few days ago. She'd been suffering from sudden fatigue and a persistent fever. Your grandmother's oxygen levels are stable, but we're going to do some chest scans today. It says here that you're her guardian. We need your consent for a few emergency procedures. Is now still a good time? During my lunch break, I pace anxiously back and forth between the living room and my bedroom. I immediately head to our TV cabinet. Tucked away in the bottom drawer is a collection of family photo albums my dad once meticulously printed and labeled. There's a photo I reach for, my family at a dinner in Flushing. I'm 5'6", wrapped around my grandma's neck. I run my finger over the matted texture like prayer beads, like I would reach instinctively for my partner's hand as proof that my family existed together in one singular moment of time. A different doctor calls me. I head into the bathroom where there's better reception. Would you like to FaceTime with your grandmother? She's awake for the first time in days. The iPad screen shifts around the dimly lit hospital room until it lands on an IV drip, a metal bed frame, and then finally a familiar face. My grandma mouths something at me, but it comes out inaudible. She smiles weakly. I take a screenshot. When I was a teenager, I studied these photo albums whenever I missed my dad. Snapshots showing my newly immigrated parents, stunning in their 90s fits. Now, between hospital calls, I study this one photo each time I speak with a doctor to provide myself with a reference point for our age difference, to remind myself what's at stake. My grandma sits upright, dignified, and composed, my small arm wrapped around her. My parents stare blankly at the camera. The flash is on. I'm missing a tooth in my smile. The third doctor asks, would you want her to be resuscitated? If her heart stops, would you want her to be intubated? 80% of people her age die during this stage. We're not allowing visitors now, but we can make exceptions for extreme cases. We'll try to get you the proper PPE. Would you be able to come tomorrow? I think about my mom, who's still commuting by subway 1 hour each way to a public hospital in Lower Manhattan. My two younger siblings moving their school year online because we're in lockdown. I think about my grandma, her dignity, and the narrative that she's maintained so carefully and thoughtfully over the decades. My mom asks, is this the last memory you want of Mama? She wouldn't even be conscious. Would you want to see her like this? Would she want you to see her like this? I think about who the visit would be for. 12 hours later, the head surgeon reports another drop in my grandma's oxygen levels. The antibody therapy isn't working. Her left lung has collapsed and the right one is giving way. Do I want them to insert a bigger tube in her chest? There's so much we don't know about this virus. If she were my grandmother, I would skip the surgery and increase the medicine. I would make sure she's comfortable. I would let her go in peace. I wonder if he's allowed to tell me what he would do. Did it accidentally spill out? Does he offer a personal hypothetical to everyone on the brink of a decision? I can't help but picture him on the other end, his unit inundated with a litany of dying patients and ventilator shortages, each moment bringing a cacophony of rotating doctors, flatlining heart monitors, and calls to make. And try not to give it too much weight. The picture has begun to crinkle at the corners, a piece of tangible evidence that my dad, my grandma, and I were all once living and breathing in the same space. Here, she was 3 times married and 1 time widowed. I was fresh out of preschool. She was a teacher and a poet and a dancer. I had just lost my first baby tooth. She had authored 2 books of prose and poetry. I had no language for immigration or borders or survival. I did not know about my dad's looming cancer diagnosis or that my mom's relationship with grandma would sour soon after his death. I did not know that once he was gone, once I was 18, the responsibility for my grandma would quietly pass on to me. All 3 generations stare back at me, waiting for a decision. I take my grief to Facebook and make it pretty for Instagram. Any financial assistance would be tremendously helpful, I type. I consider deleting the caption. Instead, I post it. It's still May of 2020. I scroll through my feed, the rising cases, death counts, and other GoFundMes sandwiched between pictures of wedding proposals and birthday brunches. I feel a quiet, creeping insanity as I swipe from one reality to the next, suddenly aware that we're not all living the same version of pandemic. A notification jolts me out of my digital haze. A college friend donates to the fundraiser. Then a high school ex. Then an old church acquaintance messaged me. I sob in front of my laptop screen. I sign cremation papers for my iPad. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Please drop your comments, your cheers, your appreciations. Take some deep breaths. Thank you, Chris, for reading that piece, which opens not only tonight's reading, but also the journal. And I hope that it will keep people good company. Our second reader for tonight is Julie Vito. Julie, do you mind saying hello and offering us your reading?
Thank you for inviting me. Yes, my name is Julie. Pronouns are she, they. I am a queer American female of Italian, Syrian, and Norwegian heritage. I work as an editor and write poetry as a way to process and reimagine current events, memory, narrative, and lived experience. This is my first time submitting to OutWrite, so thank you. I'll read two poems. The first is called The Last Good Fall. The Last Good Fall. At the end of the last good fall, there was a great crash. In the year that followed, remnants glanced off of each other before moving apart again. One might think that would be the end of it, but no. Yes, and the torch song on repeat plays its scorched earth slow burn out in the street, where we're all balancing beams of light with blackout curtains drawn to unconsciously subvert the ruling classroom scenes of abject misunderstandings, blown away by exhaust in the wind, while clouds promise nothing essential but changing conditions. The second poem is called Abandoned Structures. Abandoned structures just need refitting with flexible bounds before bearing that eternal lightness of possible futures. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Let's give big cheers and appreciations for these really evocative pieces that to me really spoke of the earliest parts of the pandemic in particular. Are you ready for your third reader? I'd like to introduce Brandon Blue. Brandon, would you like to say hello?
Hey, everybody. My name is Brandon Blue. I am a Black queer poet and French teacher who is pursuing an MFA at Arizona State University. I'm also a reader for Storm Cellar magazine, and I'm going to be reading one poem today. It is called When I'm Alone. It's a burning haibun. For those who don't know what that is, it's a form that was created by Torrin A. Greathouse, and it's a prose poem that erases itself and then erases itself again to create a haiku. It tends to focus on the internal rather than the external landscape, and it also holds at least one image involving fire. So you're going to hear a lot of the same words used, but maybe not in the exact same way. When I'm alone. I have this problem when I'm always imagining what is not, like how any two people walking next to each other have just stopped holding hands, or how when the clasp of my necklace finds its way between my clavicles, it is you thinking of me and not my mother. You tell me about space-time and relative motion and how in order for two people's experiences to be true, as observers not moving, while observing the other moving quickly, they must both be moving independently together. And when we lose track of space-time, holding each other half the day gone, I know you feel more of the light gone, now harder to see my eyes. And I begin to imagine Jupiter and its big red eye bulging into space-time, the giant cyclops mustering up clouds and lightning to ionize its tears into ecstatic gas. So when I'm in my apartment, imagining how I will apologize to you for something I haven't done yet, I can only think about my first time calling 911 when I had trouble releasing gas after dinner, the gas unable to escape. My heartbeat accelerating to prompt me to move, my nervous system humming. Tonight on that couch, I can only think of our bodies sweating and heavy, igniting into an ecstatic gas of serotonin and musk, clinging to one another until we are plasmatic, burning and leaving nothing but space and humming, collapsing in. I have always imagined walking next to each other, holding hands, the clasp, you and me, how two people moving quickly together lose track of holding each other, half the day gone. Now harder to imagine space-time, the clouds and lightning, space-time, ecstatic gas, apologizing. I can only think about my heartbeat accelerating, my nerve humming. Tonight, our bodies sweating, igniting, serotonin and musk, clinging to plasma, burning, leaving nothing, humming. I, holding you, lose track of space-time, ecstatic, humming, musk, nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon, for this very evocative, beautifully luscious queer intimacy that also has that burning sense of aloneness and grief and longing through the portal. I hope you're all breathing well out there, wherever you are listening now or in the future to a recording. We're getting ready for our fourth reader. Nuha Fariha, are you ready to join us and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. So my name is Nuha Fariha. I'm a queer Bangladeshi writer. I'm getting my MFA at Louisiana State University. My work has appeared in Stellium Literary, Thin Air Online, and Native Skin Online, among others. For a physical description, I have black hair. I'm wearing a dark blue jumpsuit and black glasses. And my poem, Akash Recites the Dua, explores themes of queerness in Islam. And just to give you guys a brief bio of the poem, I wrote this poem in a workshop in November 2022 with Jay Dodd, who's this really amazing Black queer performer and writer in Los Angeles. And Jay had us do a found writing exercise where we actually took parts from each other's poems to kind of craft a new body of work. And so I'm just really excited that it got accepted here, where we're thinking of how pandemics can be portals to creating community, especially in the poetry community. Okay, well, here's the poem. Akash recites the dua. Between the bodies, tongue traces an aleph along an inner thigh, swallows his holy response. Boy can change like a name. When you are 11, you will kiss a girl and wonder if she loves you. You don't know yet that there are things beyond love and desire. Like devotion, sweat collects in the space between bodies on barred bone. Prayer exists only here. Thank you.
Thank you, Nuha. I really appreciate, as any good queer literary journal should, we have this kernel of sensuality and desire at the center of the curated journal. Okay, are you ready for reader number 5 to join us? Please again, give lots of applause, cheers, emoji reactions, chat in response to all our readers this evening. Jessica Ogumike, are you ready to say hello?
Yes, thank you. My name is Jessica. I am a dark-skinned person with a buzzed head and glasses, and I'm wearing a black tank top. I use she and they pronouns, and I am a Black lesbian poet, community health worker, and ceramicist based in Chicago, Illinois. This land's native caretakers include the Council of Three Fires, the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Odawa nations. And Chicago remains home to one of the most diverse and populous communities of urban American Indians. My work attends to embodied memory as both internal and collective archive, and I will be reading self-soothing and synthemics theory. Self-soothing. I know where all my hands are. The column of my neck is encased in one. One is pressed into my back. The skin and the muscle pucker around it. The dimple fills with soft pressure. The touch becomes a house. Occupied by many crumbs of myself, sheltering a very heavy heat. I know that the water is a friend. It has a mouth and the moon, and salivates over the tuft of me. Dissolves me down into branches, chains, shells, and power cells, porcupine needles, simple syrup, still, simmering, in a room cleaned by steam, where the boulder of me wears away. Syndemics theory. Turned inside out, maybe it could house the two of us. I would let you scold me, peel up all my skin, pull my petals into a shawl, secure you from the bristly things, encompass you a puddle of pus, a mote of me to muffle out the screaming. Brush down the hairs with your wet palms. The skin is still red and warm. You can't believe there's a place better. You couldn't be anywhere more comfortable. All the substance of me is borrowed to you. Barrels and barrels of my insides and outsides, the lattice work of my barely withstanding, suspended in a loan to you, stored in a tin room of you, sinking in a bottomless cup of you, sanguine and endless and filled to the rim. And if I could give you this city, I would give you this entire city. But there are microscopic things even smaller than us, eating everything but our needs. You are nodding off, and there is nothing on your bones, but you say thank you and you wait for your Suboxone.
Ooh, thank you, Jessica. Some really intimate pieces of care, self-care, care for others, and sort of difficult endurance, a very thick endurance. Thank you. We are on track to be finishing pretty early. I do want to make sure that we have time at the end of this evening's readings for all the writers who shared tonight to share how you can read more of their work and find more of their work or follow them on social media and other platforms. So readers, be ready for that. Folks who are listening, be ready to write that down, follow people on your apps. Are you ready for our closing reader for this evening, whose piece is also the closing piece in the journal? And I think really, for me, really feels like an incantation that might be really useful to a lot of folks in this time. So I want to introduce Rosario Santiago. And if you will, please say hello to us and share your piece.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rosario. I'm a queer Puerto Rican writer and game designer living in Lenape Lands, also known as Philadelphia. I have glasses, curly hair, and I'm wearing gray headphones and a gray shirt. My piece is called In Death You Are. We speak of the dead in past tense, as if there is nothing left here in the anatomy of right now, as if flowers stop blooming, as if spring won't come again. In death, I forget what comes after winter, but I know that familiar sensation of the sun. A word I forget, no, a word that has been laid to rest, but still inside of me. You lose blood, but you still have veins. You are dead, but here you are, in my chest, built into the very bones of this place I call my body. In this time of grief, I've lost the words, but remember you, found you, your intimacy, your tenderness, your oath, your song, even if I don't have the tongue to speak it. I will tell you after death, you are not past tense.
I've learned to spell portal like bridge, like tunnel, like promise, like I'm still here. How else if not with you? I can feel you being here, present. You are, you are, you are.
Ooh, thank you so much, and for such a beautiful reading. It's wonderful to hear these words in everyone's voice. Thank you for the gift of your presence this evening and for sharing some very intimate and profound pieces of work that I think to me at a craft level and at a heart level and at a content level are some of the most powerful reading I've read about this pandemic time. And I feel very fortunate to be trusted to work with your writing. And I'm so excited for the full journal to be released soon so that everyone can have it for free, read it, print it, drop it off in free libraries everywhere, share it with your friends, send it to people in the mail or by email. So in closing, I want to say thank you to all of the readers tonight, to all of the writers in the journal who weren't able to join us for the reading this evening, but whose writing you'll be able to read very soon. Thank you again to my amazing co-editor, Dory, who really held the vessel of this process and did it with such grace and care for everyone's work. And for everyone involved. So as we move to give one more round of cheers and applause for all the authors featured in the journal, readers, I'd like to invite you to go in the same order that we read in and let us know where folks can follow your writing, support you, and read more of your work. If you have books, if you have recent publications, this is the time to let folks know, because I know they're going to be just as moved as I am by your words, and they're going to want to read more of your work. Don't forget to share on social media, especially if you have other work that might be forthcoming that folks might not be able to find right now. So Chris, would you mind starting us off? Where can people follow your work and read more?
Yeah, for sure. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at HeyCDeng. That's HeyCDeng. I'm currently working, I guess it's a little zine, but I've been working with a group of Chinese elders located in public housing units in Lower Manhattan, in Chinatown, and Two Bridges. And we've been doing these storytelling sessions where just transcribing and translating their stories of living in public housing, as well as just navigating the pandemic and like their early days in the garment industry here. And I'll be kind of sharing that online as well. So.
Julie, would you mind going next?
Sure. Unfortunately, I don't keep an online profile of my work. But I do have a website that I'm involved with. It's an online futurist magazine called After the Storm. You can find it on Medium. If you go to medium.com /after-the-storm. It's imagining a post-capitalist world, but it's not dystopian. It's imagine a better future. So, and we accept writing submissions from kids to adults. So yeah, it's really open to everyone's imagination. So I would encourage all to check that out. Thanks.
So you can find me on Instagram at Blue Brandon Poet, no dots, but on Twitter, Blue Brandon Poet with dots in between the different words. Like I said, also, I'm an assistant editor for Storm Cellar magazine. So if you look there, you'll see kind of my more editing eye of things, but yeah.
You can find me at Nuha Writes on Twitter and on Instagram. And I also wanted to plug the two magazines I work with. So NDR, the New Delta Review, which is out of LSU, and Korea, which focuses on speculative fiction written by people of the diaspora or immigrant populations. Yeah.
Jessica, would you mind sharing next?
Yes, so I do not have writing centric online platforms to share. You can follow me on Instagram at Onyi3000. That's ONYI 3000. And that would be the best place to see about forthcoming work. I also curate a living archive on Instagram called Arcana. That is a space where I share collages venerating Black queer ancestors and elders, specifically Sapphic ancestors and elders who have touched my life. So that's Arcana is ARCANA.WLW, and that's on Instagram as well.
You can follow me on Twitter at EpistolaryBot. That's EPISTOLARYBOT. EpistolaryBot on Twitter. And on Instagram, I am Coming of Age Stories. And I have a role-playing game coming out at the end of the summer. So I hope that you guys can check it out and we can play together.
And Dory, are there places where folks could follow you or your work that you'd like to share?
Yes, thank you. I would say you can follow my Twitter. It's my full name, Dorlin Toledo. I will not spell it out. It's on the sites in the journal, so go read that. I usually post updates on my writing there. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you all. I get so excited. I want to do like a whole other panel as we're closing out. I want to hear about everyone's editing experience, all the other visual arts and gaming formats, the other platforms that you're working on. So exciting. I hope all of you who are tuning in will continue to connect with the authors who are featured here tonight. And remember to follow OutWrite for the full digital journal release coming very soon. And thank you for joining us. Thank you to our interpreters for this evening and our tech, the OutWrite host, Dave Ring. And please take care of each other and keep each other alive. Good night.